My guest today is Chief John Odigie Oyegun. He served as the first national chairman of the All Progressives Congress. He led then opposition APC and President Muhammadu Buhari to victory in 2015, defeating an incumbent president. For many Nigerians, the current structure of the country does not reflect a system that is capable of bringing genuine development to the people. This has led to persistent calls for restructuring from various interest groups in the country. In the last year of his tenure, former President Goodluck Jonathan was pressured into setting up a constitutional conference to look extensively at ways Nigeria's polity can be structured. Jonathan later claimed that his government could not implement the over 600 recommendations of the confab due to the time constraints, as the 2015 electioneering program was by the corner. He eventually lost his re-election bid, ending the possibility of implementing what he had engineered. In that election, Muhammadu Buhari also presented the restructuring of Nigeria as a priority issue on his campaign agenda. Buhari was even projected as a pioneer of the party's restructuring ideas that were enshrined in the first part of its manifesto. Since his assumption of office as president, many observers feel Muhammadu Buhari has developed cold feet towards entrenching the restructuring agenda that his party projected. In the build-up to the last general election in 2019, restructuring was on the front burner again after the failure of Buhari's government to implement the recommendations of the restructuring committee of the ruling All Progressives Congress led by Governor Nasir El-Rufai, which put together the document to synchronize the party's position on the recurring issue of restructuring. Over a year and a half after his re-election, the recommendations are yet to be implemented by President Buhari. Is the Buhari administration still committed to restructuring? Well, I'm delighted right now to be joined by the man who helped President Muhammadu Buhari to win the general election in 2015, Chief John Odigie Oyegun, the former chairman of the All Progressives Congress and former governor of Edo State. Good to have you, Chief Oyegun. Good to have you, Chief Oyegun. All right, let's go straight to this issue. You had said at a point in time that APC's change agenda as at then was hinged on restructuring, and that the way the party will be able to manage restructuring as at 2015 would help to win the hearts and minds of Nigerians. What do you think must have happened since that 2015 election?
Nothing particularly serious. I think at a critical stage when the leadership of the party was going to be changed, there must have been a breakdown in communication. Because we, as a result of a groundswell of debate in the nation, as a groundswell of different interpretations of what restructuring meant, the party finally decided to step in, bring everything under control, define what restructuring actually meant, restructuring through federalism, as we decided to call it. When that exercise was concluded, I think it is common knowledge that we not only passed it through the entire machinery structures of the party, we also went to the media and presented it formally to the people of this country. And we got several reactions from those who wished it well, a few who did not wish it well. We were in fact congratulated by very senior vocal members of the Nigerian opposition, or those who were just civic critics of what was going on in the society. So the report did get acclaim nationwide. If I remember right, there was only one state that raised issues, and that was Akwa Ibom State, very understandably. But the issues they raised were issues that in the process of putting the recommendations and the way to putting it through the system could have been negotiated, answers could have been found to their very, very peculiar problem. So I think it went through the, let me go back, went through the entire machinery of the state, of the party, and the party was mandated, the executive of the party was mandated to present it to the National Assembly, because our report even included draft legislation in certain instances. So we had in fact simplified the matter, but I think in the process of change of leadership, it must have fallen between stools, and I think, if I again recall rightly, that it has finally been agreed that this issue should be remitted to the National Assembly for appropriate legislative action as they consider necessary. In the process, of course, the people will still have the opportunity to make their views known, to perfect the recommendations of the party.
Now, Chief Oyegun, there has been this sort of attitude that Nigerians have described as lackadaisical from your party's candidate, who is now the incumbent president, President Muhammadu Buhari. At every point in time, these issues are raised on restructuring. The government goes on defensive. But if this was put into your constitution and it formed the backbone of APC coming into power, how come the government keeps shying away from restructuring the country fully constitutionally? Because what they keep saying is that they are doing restructuring through executive orders and all of that, while Nigerians are actually saying that they need constitutional alterations or amendment so that this will be very visible. What are your thoughts?
I don't know about any lackadaisical attitude. The issue has been discussed. The party has taken a position, and all that is now necessary is legislative action. Let me say, I am not in government, I'm in the party that is in government, but let me say that given the plethora of problems, genuine problems, that today afflict the nation, given the challenges that afflict the nation, given the security situation that is afflicting the nation, I think government has a plate full of responsibilities. And the president has every right to assume that this has been placed before the National Assembly. If it has not been done, I hope that has been done, I'm assuming it has been done, then it ought to be placed squarely. Let me make a point, it's a bit of a diversionary point, that in this nation, no civilian government has succeeded in making fundamental changes to the national constitution, except, of course, with the creation of the then Midwestern state, which was as a result of the political situation at that time. The 35 states we have today were the result each time of military intervention and the military trying to respond to the desires, the wishes, expressed wishes of the people of this nation. This is a very unique opportunity for government and the legislature, the executive and the legislature, to make a difference to the fundamental structure of this nation. I must say that if anybody is against restructuring, then it is only because he just doesn't understand. Restructuring to him is like a red flag. You wave it and he just says no, without even considering the merits. I think it is going to be fundamental to the economic development of this country. It's going to be fundamental to the security, the improved security situation of this nation. And it is going to be fundamental to a cooling of the polity, because right now, let me give, it's not quite an adage. If a child asks for cake today, you deprive him of the cake. You don't explain to him why he can't have cake at that time. By the time he reaches, demands grow, the demands keep growing. And one day he will not just be asking for cake. he'll be asking for something much greater. And the way the nation, if you observe the way our nation is going now, there's this tendency towards zonal, I would call it regional agglomeration. It's creeping in. People are doing things by zones and the rest of it. It is creeping in, and one day we will be having a demand for something much greater, which could threaten.
All right, Chief Oyegun, are you specifically talking about the, I'm sorry to interject you there, are you specifically talking about the NSAS protests that, took the nation by storm in October? And
thank you.
Also, is it related to the agitations for regional security networks by state governors? Is that what you mean?
Thank you for reminding me of that. It is a very good example where a basic fundamental demand, not acted on at the proper time, develops wings and grows to become something bigger than we expect. Yes, it is a very good lesson which everybody should bear in mind. If there's any reason you cannot restructure, please say so and try to convince the nation. But I think and I confirm that the party, including government, the president, has accepted the report as presented, discussed it. The report has been presented to the nation. The nation has discussed and basically accepted it. And it will not go to the National Assembly if it is not there already. I think it must be there already. And in the next few months, they are going on break now, recess, I hear. When they come back, I think it will be one of the issues that they have to look at with every seriousness. They should not mix it up with the constitution. Well, they have this other committee which is looking at the Constitution, and we may go on and on and on and on forever. This is definite. This is clear. Every aspect of it has been thought out. The committee worked and looked at every constitutional conference that has been held and the reports thereof. The committee went to every corner of this country getting opinion fundamentally as to what people really think and what they want when they talk of true federalism or restructuring and the rest of it. So we have something well thought out. I'm not saying it's perfect. Still subject to amendment tinkering here and there in the process of passing it through the National Assembly. But I think we are ready to move ahead on that.
Well, Chief, I must let you know that the National Assembly had actually said that they will take a look at that report by Governor El-Rufai on restructuring, and I know the Deputy Senate President had said that they would actually include it in the committee looking at the constitutional amendment. But let's take a critical look at why, for example, the northern part of the country, which you had alluded to earlier on, keeps getting shocked or doesn't want to talk about this restructuring when southern leaders like you talk. What exactly is this restructuring you're talking about when you're talking about it? Because a lot of persons say you're not very explicit on what you want, but you just use it as a sing-song to sort of like try to intimidate the North. What is that restructuring that southern leaders are campaigning for?
Well, first let me correct a little point. It's not Governor El-Rufai's presentation, no. It is a presentation by the APC of ideas, proposals, well thought out, that have been approved at every level of the party. So it is a lot more serious when you keep saying Governor El-Rufai, Governor El-Rufai. No, it is the party that is presented, has presented it to the nation, and the nation has accepted. So we are presenting it to the National Assembly, and I hope that the National Assembly will give it the seriousness that it deserves. Now to the other part of your question. I know people, individuals have written, including individuals from the North, but I don't have the impression that it is the North that doesn't want restructuring. If anybody, like I said much earlier, does not accept restructuring, it is because, one, he hasn't read the APC manifesto. Secondly, he probably hasn't read the report on restructuring. Thirdly, he certainly has not given a thought as to the pros and cons of restructuring. Look, it will create 36, and when you are at the federal level, 37 development nodes in this country. Today, what do we have? When you look around, most of the states, some have money and they should do much better, but most of the states cannot do better than they are doing. And what do we find every day? Publicity, vehicles given to the police, vehicles given to this, schools that have been rebuilt. Nobody tells you whether there's a library in the school or whether there's a laboratory in the school. They take beautiful pictures of shiny roofs and all that. Once in a while, they manage to commission a road and all that. These are not, we want factories. We want employment creating activities and so on. So they must be making a very tragic mistake. We want the attention not to be on just one center in this nation for all answers to all problems, the federal government. We want the people of this country to now, having given the states additional responsibilities, having given them additional resources, can now look to their governor for delivering services, for delivering development. And it must not be that it is the federal government alone that will take the blame or the credit for everything that happens in this nation. The states should be put in a position where they are more development-oriented rather than just repainting schools without laboratories, without libraries, and the rest of it. So this country will benefit tremendously. They should read. Yeah.
Sorry to interfere. It's a very great issue you have raised there, because that's what we keep saying from governors and all of that. But taking a critical look at the APC report, like you have called it now, we have about 12 critical recommendations. One of it is that on citizenship, for example, your party has said that the state of origin should be replaced with state of residence. And then you have also said that when it comes to the issue of fiscal federalism, states should be able to control a huge chunk of their resources while the federal controls maybe the defense, foreign affairs, and a little of that. And then there's the issue of independent candidacy, because you feel that the big parties, in one way or the other, may not have been given enough platform for other Nigerians who have independent thoughts. And then there's the issue of local government autonomy, there's the issue of merger of states, and then, of course, issue of state police. In all of this, which would you say that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has done without awaiting that of approval of the National Assembly? Because some of these issues are administrative issues that do not require amendment of the Constitution.
I am not sure that any of them does not require amendment of the Constitution, because fundamental to it is that you are moving responsibilities. For any other thing to happen, you are moving responsibilities, you are moving resources. That is basic, that is fundamental. And if that does not take place, what are you, we're dealing with the peripheral issue. So let the nation discuss in the National Assembly, where every corner of this country is represented. Let them discuss the entire, it's a totality. It is a package. Controlling your resources fundamentally. There are details to it. Let us discuss these things. Local governments, there are details to it. There are fundamental reasons. What we are doing today is very, very wrong. The kind of local, because we have cultural differences, ethnic differences all over the country, and people may want to address the governance at local level differently. So we are doing things so wrong. And that is a very, very fundamental, basically the issue of who does what and the issue of who controls what resources are fundamental. And until we address that and decide on it, every other thing will almost automatically fall into place. The issue of restructuring the police force is fundamental. It has very serious, it will have very serious impact. It will improve very dramatically the security situation in the nation. We have, what, over 300, 400, maybe soon it will be 500,000 men in the police force, and you are controlling them from one single center. The constable in Calabar, the constable in Karanamoda, the constable on the Lake Chad, and all these places. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. I know people say, sorry, I'm going on outside your question. People are very fearful of state police. They should also be fearful of federal police. And of course, we have learned, given the relationships between godfathers and their godsons, between a current governor and past governor, that these are things you don't toy with. Because you don't know who will be in power today. You will toy with the police, yeah, marginally. But beyond that, you'll be setting a precedent for yourself. I'll give you a good example. Today, there's hardly a governor investigating another governor. So I don't expect them to also use the police to tyrannize members of their society. So it's so fundamental that it deserves to be discussed in the National Assembly, and everybody will have a proper opportunity to contribute.
Government seems to have, in its own ways, felt that it may not get some of these amendments done constitutionally, and as a result has resorted to using executive orders. For example, to ensure that local governments get financial autonomy, get their funds directly without the state and local government joint account. But the governors seem to be all out against some of these executive orders, and they've even gone to the Supreme Court and all of that to seek further interpretation. Then this issue of financial autonomy for state legislatures, the more the president wants to implement some of these amendments, even done constitutionally by the National Assembly, you see the governors almost looking like they are ganging up against the president. What will you advise the presidency to do to ensure that there's synergy, since your party controls 2/3 of the states in the country?
All I will tell you is this: implement the APC proposals on restructuring. When it looks like the federal government is giving instructions to the states, you are once again reducing us to a unitary state. And fundamentally in that report is this issue of local government, independence. No, I told you, at the grassroots, we are different in how we organize ourselves. We are different as to our respect, say, for traditional authorities and the rest of it. So allow each state to organize its local government the way that is in tune with its cultural ways and norms and the rest of it. Some local governments may have their traditional rulers, some states, may have their traditional rulers as chairman of local government. Some may even have the local headmaster. They'll do it in a way that it is more effective. Instead, we created this monstrosity in Abuja, imposed the uniformity in every state. Why? If there's a state that wants to make every street a local government and they feel that is how they can reach the people, so be it. And watching each other, the states watching each other when they have higher responsibilities, they will be looking at each other, they will be learning from each other, they will be correcting their mistakes, they will be helping each other. So we have this great opportunity for this restructuring, constructive restructuring debate. And we shouldn't go and be looking at the peripheral issues. Because once you sort out the major issues, everything falls into place.
All right, Chief John Odigie Oyegun there. Just hold your thoughts there while we go on a break, and when we return, we'll continue. You're still watching the Arise interview, plenty more still ahead, including we'll continue our chat with Chief John Odigie Oyegun, the former chairman of the All Progressives Congress. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. My guest is still Chief John Odigie Oyegun. He served as the first national chairman of the All Progressives Congress. He led the then opposition APC and President Muhammadu Buhari to victory in 2015, defeating an incumbent president, former President Goodluck Jonathan. Now, let's go straight to the issue of your position now. You are a former national chairman of the APC, which is the ruling party. You're a member of the board of trustees of the party by virtue of that former position. When last did the APC hold its meeting, its BOT meeting, and have you been able to offer this advice on the need to ensure that this restructuring document is followed through? And have you also sought any opportunity with President Muhammadu Buhari to remind him of these promises you made to the electorate in 2015 and on the need for APC to ensure that the restructuring document is implemented?
Well, you said it yourself. You confirmed that the National Assembly has made a pronouncement that they will consider the report. I don't know when, if they mentioned the timing, but they have. So there's no need reminding Mr. President, because what he needs to do, I think he has done. He has seen the report, he has read the report, he has approved, participated in approving the report. So it's, the pressure should now be on the National Assembly. I think all pressure should be directed at the National Assembly.
Party leaders and then incumbent leaders, former people in power actually visiting President Muhammadu Buhari. I am keen to know why you have not visited the State House since you actually ended your tenure there at the APC. Why haven't you visited the State House to meet with Mr. President to discuss national issues like we've had other leaders do?
Who told you I have not visited Mr. President? Well, if you want, I can confirm to you that I have, and I have also had a conference call on the phone with him, given the situation with the COVID and the rest of it. But I think you prefer when people come out and then brief the media. I don't do that. When I discuss anything, when I go for a private visit, it is because there are private issues that I want to advise on, that I want to discuss. And once I've said my piece, that's the end of the matter. So yes, I have seen Mr. President.
Interesting to know. You are from the South-South, and South-South governors had, towards the end of last year, brought out this debate on the need for, mining rights to be devolved to them, just like Zamfara State, was having opportunities to mine gold and all of that. What do you make of that call for that devolution of power and then, the derivation principle to actually be handed down, because they keep complaining that until this is done, we are going to continue to be in a serious challenge. What do you make of that agitation that, for example, Delta State should be treated the way Zamfara has been treated?
Well, approve the report. Let the National Assembly address the report and approve it. That is one of the fundamental issues of resource control that is addressed in that report, and it will sort out the matter completely. Whether your mineral is gold, or whether it is oil, or whether it is nickel, or whether it is even uranium, whatever it is, there's one blanket provision that covers everything. And by the way, when we say, hold on please, 1 minute. When we say resource control, that is something else that raises a red flag all over the country, particularly in the north. They should please look at the details of resource control. The entire country is being provided for in a way that will not be substantially different from what is happening today, and will give the states the challenges, and the people of the state will know that this time deliverance of services, of development in whatever field rests with their state governors, and the burden on the federal government will be a lot reduced. We'll be able to then work on policies and issues that will make things easier all over the country.
Before we go into political matters, I would want to pick your thoughts on the issue of citizenship. Your party has said in its recommendation that Nigeria should discard the issue of state of origin and focus on state of residence, because the state of origin doesn't seem to have done us any good. How do you think this could be feasible, considering that people are sentimentally attached to this issue of state of origin? You are an elder statesman. You know what happens at the locality when you have a visitor coming. People who don't want to discard their state of origin to allow that person to claim some benefits. What are your thoughts on that very, powerful recommendation that may change the face of this country?
Yeah, it's still a bit of a sensitive issue. And I think we should look at the details, which may not necessarily be in that report. You are an indigene. You can be considered an indigene when you have settled in that area. When you did Easter, every Christmas, you yourself, who are settled in a different part of the country, does not carry your entire family home. Your children will probably marry local girls. You probably will also have a wife from that same area. It is easy to know who an indigene is, as distinct from somebody who goes there to work, who goes there to set up a trade because there are opportunities there. They are two very, very different things. You are clearly an indigene when you have, to some extent, assimilated into your surroundings and into culture of the people. So I don't think it's such a great issue. It doesn't mean when you travel to somewhere and you are there for a few months, you become an indigene. I don't think we are carrying it that far. Unless we want to go to the American way. The American way, whenever you can change your state of, you can state your state of origin, you can change it at any opportunity. You can change it twice a year. Well, fine. If that's what we want, then so be it.
Now, prior to the 2015 general election, I remember Olisa Metu, who used to be the spokesman of the former ruling party, the PDP, calling your party, the Janjaweed party, alongside, some of those PDP leaders and so on. And one of the fears is that if APC is given opportunity to rule Nigeria, it may Islamize the country and all of that. There may be return to northern hegemony. Now, what do you make of the assertion by Bishop Matthew Kuka recently accusing the president, who is incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari, who is of your party, of entrenching northern hegemony and trying in one way or the other to tilt things, appointments, and some other issues towards religious matter? What do you make of that allegation by that highly respected cleric?
Yes, indeed. It is good that he's somebody who interacts very closely because of the position that he holds with the people. He wants things locally and the rest of it. So he is speaking from his experience, and I cannot question that at all. I have not studied that subject. The employment proportions and the rest of it I have personally not studied, so I may not be able to comment reasonably. But I will only emphasize that Bishop Kukah is a northerner. Bishop Kukah is a priest. So Bishop Kukah interacts very, very closely with his flock and even beyond, because he's somebody who has so many attachments, so many interests, not just in the north, but all over the country. So Bishop Kukah should be listened to. That's the least I can say.
The allegations there, not only by Bishop Kukah, is also by the National Assembly, is that President Buhari seems to have lost grip of the security situation of the country. Your party actually promised Nigerians security, and President Buhari had said during campaigns in 2015, if I remember clearly, that there will be no need for the world to be having sleepless nights over Nigeria if he's elected as a former military general. But as I speak with you right now, we've seen abductions, we've seen lots of things happening here and there. The National Assembly calling 4 times for the sack of service chiefs. That hasn't happened. Although we are hearing that the government is promising to quash the insurgency this year. What do you make of all these alleged failures against Mr. President and the ruling All Progressives Congress?
Yes, I heard the statement that Mr. President made, and I am very, very glad. I want to say quite clearly that security, the deteriorating security situation in this nation is very, very worrisome. It makes development impossible. It makes foreign investment almost disappear. And even local investment is risky. I have only very personal views about why things are what they are. Yes, we promised, but at that time we had only Boko Haram to deal with, and we dealt with Boko Haram. But all these other things germinated virtually all around the nation. I can only tell you my fears. I can only tell you my suspicions. And to me, as a non-expert in security matters, I think this nation is virtually under invasion. I think somebody somewhere has a plan, to undermine this nation, to undermine our government, to make it seem that they are not in control, that they are not in charge. And this to me is more worrisome because a lot of those involved are non-Nigerians. Secondly, and even as more worrisome, is that we have this spread nationwide of those we call, what do we call them, headsmen who carry rifles in virtually every community in this country today. They have set up their own villages and the rest. And the question I ask myself every day is, God forbids that each of these agglomerations all over the country rise up with their rifles. Can we cope?
Chief Oyegun, we just have to go on a break right now. When we come, I really want to get your view on a very important aspect of that security matter. You're still watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we have been having this wonderful conversation with former APC National Chairman Chief John Odigie Oyegun, who has been taking time out to actually speak with us on some of the issues concerning security, concerning restructuring, and he has actually made it very clear that his party is still willing to ensure that restructuring is implemented. He is also stating that the National Assembly now holds ground. That's where the ball is right now. At the moment, it's left for the National Assembly to ensure that this issue of restructuring the country is given accelerated hearing, because the National Assembly Joint Committees on Constitutional Review, talking about the Senate and House of Representatives, have said in one way or the other that they will actually take a look at some of the recommendations of the APC Restructuring Committee report, which was led by Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, and he is clearly stating that the National Assembly should ensure that the country is given this opportunity to ensure that Nigerians smile, especially in this 2021 that we are in, and so we are hoping to actually have him back. At the moment, we just lost some signal, but I've been told that we have. All right, I've been told that we are still looking at having Chief John Odigie Oyegun. But some of the issues that we talked about are the content of the recommendation of that APC Restructuring Committee, which had to do with merger of states, talking of derivation principle too also, and devolution of powers, fiscal federalism. The committee had also recommended independent candidacy, people could actually contest for elections without belonging to any political party, as long as they meet the criterion. And then there was the issue of local government autonomy, the issue of revenue allocation. Most of the states had complained that the current revenue allocation formula does not work in favor of the states, with the federal government having about 52%. And so as a result of that, the states had been crying out that they need not only to have more chunk of the revenue allocation, but that the issue of states should be left within their purview, that the issue of states should actually be removed from the constitution. We should not have the 774 local government areas reflected in the constitution. They should be left to states to actually determine. And that's what Chief Odigie Oyegun has said, that the states should be allowed to actually create as much local government as they want. And so I've been told that Chief Oyegun is back at the moment. So, well, good to have you, Chief. And as we try to coast home, let's talk about political matters right now. In your state, the APC had lost the last Edo State governorship election, and some people accuse you of anti-party activities. What do you make of that allegation? So, Chief, I was saying that your party, the All Progressives Congress, had lost Edo State, and some people had accused you of anti-party activities for subtly supporting Governor Godwin Obaseki and his re-election bid. What do you make of that allegation?
Not hearing you.
We'll see not to still have Chief Oyegun there. But some of the issues we had been discussing earlier on was on the issue of citizenship too. One of the recommendations of that committee report led by Governor El-Rufai is that citizens across the country should actually be judged based on their state of residency rather than the state of origin, which currently applies. Lots of Nigerians have been saying that they've been resident in parts of the country for years, and they still are not given their dues. They are not recognized more as being or having stayed there for years and paying taxes, that they are not being given the dues that they deserve. So they think that the citizenship by residency should be considered, and the committee report actually took a look on that, and they said that they had recommended that. And one of those issues is that public holidays too, as funny as it looks, and minor as it looks, states were given the right in that committee report to actually determine public holidays for themselves instead of the federal government always imposing public holidays. And then we have the critical issues of state police too. One of that major issues that states should be allowed to have their own police, and we've seen bits of it. The powers of the current Nigerian police is being eroded gradually, and people are getting some of these, rights through the back door, as some analysts have said. We've seen regional regions actually forming their own networks. We have, for example, the Amotekun in the southwest, and then we also have the southeast leaders saying, governors actually saying that they want a regional network. So I've been told right now that Chief Odigie Oyegun is back. And Chief, if you can hear me clearly, one of the questions I was asking you, that the APC had lost the Edo State governorship election, and one of the things that people have said is that you seem to have played anti-party activities. What do you make of that allegation? Well, if you can hear me, Chief, one of the things that we have said earlier is that your party, the All Progressives Congress, had lost the Edo State governorship election last year, 2020, and Governor Godwin Obaseki was re-elected. You were accused of playing anti-party activities and helping the governor to get re-elected. What do you make of that? Well, I've been told that we still do not have him. So based on the issues that we had been debating, one of the critical recommendations by that RFI committee report was that states should be merged. And Chief Odigie Oyegun has said that a lot of progress has not been made by civilian authorities since the 60s, when the Midwestern region was created as a matter of necessity. No civilian government has been able to create another region or create another state. And so with this recommendation, it is left to be seen if another state may be created or states can merge, because the recommendation here by the report, by the committee, is that some states do not seem to be viable economically. And so in the light of this observation, the APC Restructuring Committee had said that states should be given the opportunity to actually see how they can merge if they are willing, and then the state legislatures actually come together to agree that there should be a merger, then that should happen. But I've been told that Chief Oyegun is back. So one of the questions I was asking you, Chief, and sorry we couldn't get you, is that there were allegations that you helped Governor Godwin Obaseki to get re-elected to the detriment of your party, the All Progressives Congress. What do you make of the allegations?
What is there to make about it? It's not an allegation. My views were made very public. And not only to the Nigerian public, but to the party. They knew where I stood. And if you notice, a lot of the party leadership, the vast majority, I must say, and the rank and file of the party nationwide, were totally against what happened and were emotionally in support of the maligned and abused governor. So, and in a sense, it is a very good thing that happened. And it's a lesson to those who wield power and want to make power absolute, that there's no such thing. There's no such thing as absolute power. People mustn't present themselves as owners of states, because it is the citizens of that state that are owners of the state. And in this case, they made that point very, very clear. So I think it's an issue that is dead and buried. It's over and done with.
Be accused of anti-party activities. Is that what you're saying? Very quickly.
No, I don't think there was any real anti-party activities, because every party has rules. Every party has a constitution. Every party has a methodology of carrying out things. And if that party itself runs foul of the laws of the party, it's like a military commander, a policeman, or whoever, or even in the civil service, a permanent secretary, giving an illegal instruction, the members or the officer being given that illegal instruction is not compelled to obey. As a matter of fact, he would be stupid if he obeyed.
All right, Chief, I won't let you go without asking you this burning issue of 2023. Sorry, we had audio issues earlier, and that's why we couldn't take it. But there have been these agitations that it's time for the South to actually have this presidential ticket of the APC in 2023. We had Chief Oshoba, who actually alluded to a gentleman agreement between the North and the South, that when the South has the national chairman, the presidential ticket should come from the North. So what do you make of this, time right now for the South to have the presidential ticket of the APC?
Well, I think people just want headlines, because to me, it is a total non-issue. The structure of our nation, the nature of our nation dictates that power cannot reside in any particular part of it for any prolonged period. That is not, it's just not possible. It's just not on. So when I read the discussions, listen to the discussions, I'm totally amazed. Totally amazed. The issue is given. It is assumed. It is there that number one priority, the candidate for any party, well, okay, let me speak for the APC. Candidate for the APC in the next election should come from the South. That is for me, that is a given. Well, unless, of course, and there are always the other overriding conditions that dictate otherwise. Otherwise, for me, it's a given. And that's the end
I'm
of
afraid
it.
we just have to go right now because we no longer have enough time. Chief John Odigie Oyegun, first national chairman of the All Progressives Congress. It's been nice having you and learning from some of these things that you've talked about, restructuring and the entire country. Well, I would like to thank you for having some time to be with us, and that's how it's been for this edition of the Arise interview. But do stay with us as we take you to live proceedings at U.S. Capitol Hill, where efforts seeking to remove President Trump begin at the House of Representatives. Stay with us.